I was at work the first time I got the notification on my phone. I glanced down at a staff meeting, glad for the distraction, and I saw that I had a new message from my doorbell. I had installed one of those smart doorbells to make sure that nobody was trying to steal packages or break into my house when I was at work. I was both terrified and excited to get my first message. I clicked play on the 10-second video. At first, there was nothing, and then I saw a bird land on my porch railing. A second later, a cat jumped up and grabbed it off the fence, and the video cut out right after. I couldn't help but let out an excited whoop in the meeting. My boss was not too amused. Periodically, I got a message from my doorbell. Most of the time it was nothing. A car passing by, the mailman dropping off letters, someone walking their dog. Every time it was nothing. After a week, I started dreading the videos sent from my doorbell. Always expecting something interesting, but always being disappointed. And that disappointment would soon evaporate when I started getting the night videos. I had been lying on the couch watching TV and fighting off sleep when I felt my phone vibrate. I glanced down and I saw the icon in the corner of the screen. I shook my head and then I dropped the phone back down. A few seconds later, my phone vibrated again. I looked and saw that there was a 2 next to the icon. I glanced over at the front door. I hadn't heard anything and I was only a few feet away. And my phone buzzed again. The number 3 appeared. Curiosity had gotten the best of me and I opened up the first video. Like all of them, it was 10 seconds. And for the first 8, literally nothing happened. I rolled my eyes and was about to shut off my phone when I saw what looked like light reflecting off metal, and then it went black. That reflection was enough to get me to look at the second video. Again, a few seconds of nothing and then what looked like movement near my railing. It sounded like something was in my bushes. Right before the 10 seconds had ended, there was another reflection. I glanced up at the door and looked for any movement. Nothing, no sounds, no shadows. I clicked play on the third video. Again, nothing for a second until another crunch of a footprint. And then it looked like a figure moved away from the camera. The weirdest thing though, was the sound that it made. It was a low, almost whisper level, a cicada chittering. At least that's what it sounded like. I walked over to my door as quiet as can be and I put my ear up to the wood. I could barely make out what was going on, but I was hoping that I'd catch something. Had there been a doorbell camera on me at the moment, I'd look like a fucking weirdo. I pulled my ear off of the door having heard nothing, but then my phone vibrated in my pocket. Another video from the doorbell. I couldn't play it because somebody might be able to see the light. So I put my phone in my pocket and I crawled along the floor, away from the door. Once behind the safety of the wall, I opened up my phone and I tapped on the video. There was nothing, and then a long shadow cast across the light. It was a person. I couldn't see, but it looked like it had been hunched down at the same time I was. The only thing that separated me from whatever was outside of my door was a thin piece of wood. I made an executive, some might think stupid decision, and I dashed up and flipped on my porch light. I was half expecting to get another video, but nothing ever came. All I heard was that faint chittering and then everything was silent again. I waited for over an hour, constantly glancing down at my phone, but I never got another message. I assumed that whatever was outside of my door was gone. I took a deep breath and I grabbed the door handle. I slowly twisted it and I pushed it open. And nothing was there, and not even a cat. I shook my head and was about to head back inside and lock the door when something near the railing caught my eye. It shimmered in the porch light. It was near my bushes. I walked over there and I looked down to see a small necklace with a tiny locket. Inside of it was the picture of a young couple. There is a name etched into it. Maybe Parson or Person or Parsum, but I couldn't make it out because it was crisscrossed with scratches. It wasn't worth much, more sentimental value than real worth, but it did confirm my suspicion that someone indeed had been there. I scooped it up, went back inside, and I locked all my doors and windows. Before I had went to bed that night, I went online and ordered another doorbell camera for my back door. As I slid under the covers, I swore that I could hear a soft chittering right outside of my window, but I can't be sure. I might just have been dreaming. And the next day at work, I found myself looking at my phone, hoping for another video. Was the person going to come back to look for their necklace? Each time that I saw a new video pop up, it was more of the same. Nothing exciting. A cat, a postman, a dog walker. Just boring stuff. Later that night, I was reading a book when my phone vibrated. Another video. I glanced up at the clock. It was almost midnight. Outside my window, I heard that faint chittering again. They were back. I jumped up and quietly made my way to the front door. I pulled out my phone and I waited for it to buzz again. I didn't have to wait long. I opened the video and I saw a long shadow cast on my porch. No one moved into the frame, and I found myself pleading with the figure to do so. I wanted to get a look at who this was. Part of me thought of grabbing a bat and walking outside, but my lizard brain told me that was dumb. Another buzz. This time, I didn't need the video. There was a crash at my door and what sounded like a hand dragging across it. I swallowed hard and suddenly realized that maybe I didn't want to look at the video. The chittering came again. It was louder than before. There was another crash at my door and the chittering intensified. My phone buzzed. Another video. I pocketed it and looked over for something I could use as a weapon and only saw some pillows. I looked down at my fist and I sighed. They weren't gonna do jack shit. The cicada noise was so intense now that it started to warp my field of vision. It was having an effect on me. I put my hands over my ears and I crawled away from the noise. The further that I got from the clamor, the clearer my head became again. I clicked on the video and was surprised to see the figure of a man lurching in a frame. The night vision of the doorbell camera made his eyes look black and lifeless. He moved in a herky-jerky fashion like maybe he had been drinking. In the video, he raised his hand to hit the door, but it looked off. It was a fist, maybe. Right before he hit the door, the video ended. Just then, I heard a tapping on the window next to me. I put my hand over the phone screen and I slouched all the way down to the ground. As my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I could make out the outline of the man. I don't think that he was lost or confused. I think he was looking for a weak point to enter the house. In my head, I was trying to remember if I locked all my windows. There is nothing in this world scarier than realizing somebody might break into your house and hurt you because you have been too lazy to lock the window. The man dragged his hand along the glass, which afforded me a better look at it. It looked white, like he was wearing a glove. He had to be. He wasn't leaving fingerprints on the glass. He moved on and I slowly followed along with him. Just then, I heard the chittering and I stopped. I wanted to keep my thoughts in case he was, I don't know, casting a spell or something. I'll admit that it sounds dumb, but I really didn't want to take any chances at this point. Just then, my phone buzzed. My back door camera had a new video. I clicked on it and saw that the man was at my back door. His head was constantly swaying. I couldn't get a good view, but he was obviously looking for something. I heard a smash from my backyard and I hustled over to the window. I peeked out of the blinds, praying that he wouldn't be staring back at me, and I searched for the sound of the noise. The man had zigzagged across my backyard and had knocked down my charcoal grill. The ashy dust seemed to cling to him as he moved around the yard. What was odd was that it didn't stick to his legs, or if it did, I just didn't notice it. The ash on his body seemed to taper off at the waist. The man spun and headed back towards my house. I kept looking out as curious as I was horrified. I thought he was heading for my door, but he made a turn and walked down to the side of my house. I dashed over to the next window to see him, but he was gone. I was flummoxed. Where the hell did he go? Maybe he fell down. Did he trip over my garden beds? Was I going to find some rummy passed out of my pumpkin patch tomorrow morning? I sat against the wall and I debated what to do. Should I just go out and confront him? Considering I could even bear to look at the doorbell videos, I don't think that was going to happen. Call the police. And tell them what, some man is hobbling around my house and might be sleeping with my Cinderella pumpkins. Before I could make any decision, I heard something moving along the back of my house. He was at it again. I followed him around the house until he was near my front door. I crouched down and I pressed my ear against it. Maybe he's mumbling something. My phone buzzed. I wasn't surprised. I could hear him moving around out front. But when I opened the screen, I nearly passed out. There was a video from my back door. Maybe he brought a friend and was just too stupid or scared to notice. Would they rush me? Could I fight them off? What did they want? Just then, I had a moment of inspiration. Maybe they wanted that necklace. Of course. He'd come back for the necklace. If I gave it back to him, they'd leave, or so I hoped. The only problem was that I had left it in the glove box in my car. If I wanted to get it to them, I was going to need to go outside. I don't know. I had brought the necklace to a jeweler to see if they could make out what the name was. He said he couldn't, but he knew by design that it was old. He suggested that I check out who owned the house before me at my local library. I had checked out the necessary files, but I hadn't had a chance to look at them. And now, because of my stupid cat-like need to be curious, I had to do the craziest thing that I'd ever considered. I opened the video from the back door and I saw another figure. A woman or a man with longer hair. I couldn't tell by the picture. They didn't stay still enough for a great shot. I only saw them in fleeting glances. They were still mulling around the backyard. The man had moved on from my porch and was moving to join his friend. I scooted over to the front door and gingerly reached up to unlock the door. I grabbed my car keys and I hit the unlock button. Through the glass, I could see the headlights flicker and I knew the car was open. I took a deep breath and then swung the door open. The night was cold and it seemed to seep into my bones. I glanced around, looking for anything, before darting out to my car. I was quick, but I took a longer route than I normally would, running from shadow to shadow in hopes that nobody would see me. Right as I got to my car, my freaking neighbor's motion-activated light came on. I dropped to the ground and I stayed as still as I could. I inched my way under my car and I looked around for the figures. I saw my gate, it was closed, and I waited for it to swing open. As soon as the bulb shut out, I rolled out from my car and I popped open the door. I reached my hand in, damn near ripped the door off the glove box, and I grabbed the necklace. I shut the door and was about to head back inside the house when I noticed that both of the figures had come through the gate when I was grabbing the necklace. I was panicked. I inched back under my car and I wished myself as flat as a piece of paper. But they seemed to be walking towards me. Their herky-jerky motions looked haunting in the moonlight. I decided to make an executive decision. I balled my hand around the necklace, readjusting my body under the car, and I tossed the necklace as far as it would go. It landed about 10 feet away in the grass. The figures didn't seem to notice though. I needed them to see the glimmer of the metal in the light, but my neighbor's light wasn't going off. Of course. My phone buzzed, a video from my front door. They were getting closer and I was out of ideas. I mumbled a prayer and I hurled my phone into the grass. I heard it roll end over end until it skidded to a stop on my neighbor's lawn. The light kicked on. The figure must have noticed the glimmer of the necklace because they headed that way. Suddenly, both of them started making those chittering cicada noises. It became so intense, I thought that my ears would explode. I shut my eyes to drown out the sound, and that's when I blacked out. The next thing I remember is someone licking my face. I opened my eyes expecting to see some deranged psychopath preparing to bite me, but instead I found a stray cat licking my nose. The sun was up, it was morning. I rolled out from under my car and I stretched. I felt horrible. I looked over and I saw my neighbor standing there, ready to go to work. He nodded at me and I nodded back. I walked over and I retrieved my phone from his lawn. We didn't speak, it was probably for the best. After that, I never had any late night visitors again. My doorbell videos went back to cats and cars and birds. I was fine with that. I no longer needed the thrill of the unknown. I did have more video from the man, but it was from that night, probably after I had passed out. He and his friend had walked past my porch, their movements less jerky than before. More, I don't know, fluid. And they seemed to be floating. 10 seconds of them passing and then they went to black. I finally did take a look at the files about my house and I was glad that I did. I discovered that in the 1880s, a woman named Ann Olimer had owned the land. Not just my house, but a few blocks. It had been a sprawling farm. She had been engaged to be married but died suddenly from a sickness. She was buried off the plot and then it was auctioned off. And the man she was engaged to was never mentioned by name. All of this had been really weird. But what still gives me chills is what happened 6 months later. A friend of mine had lost her battle with cancer and had died. After her funeral, I decided to go and find my grandpa and grandma's graves and pay my respects. It had been a while. I must have gotten turned around because I could not find where they were. I stopped to pull out my phone and I noticed I had a video from my doorbell. I clicked on it. There was nothing there. 10 seconds of nothing until it went black. And then I heard a cicada. It wasn't on my phone. I looked down and there were two sitting on a headstone in front of me. As soon as I looked at them, they took off. And that's when my blood ran cold. And the headstone I was standing at said, Thomas Parson, beloved brother, uncle, and friend. And below that was a quote etched into the limestone. I can't wait to see you again, Anne. At the base of the headstone, I saw the necklace.